Have you ever seen a video and told yourself that you could do that only if you had the time or the money or the opportunity? How much of that is just you standing in the way of yourself? I flew from California to Washington to climb Mount Shuksan in the North Cascades Range. This is a peak that's just south of the Canadian-US border, and it's a unique mountain because of all the different challenges that we face trying to get to the summit. All right, we just got to the trailhead. We're getting everything ready to start climbing. So we're starting here in the woods. We're gonna get to a lake called Lake Anne, and then from that lake, we start the climb. We're gonna go up the Fisher Chimneys, which is this really cool kind of climbing up these chimneys in the rock. We get up on the glacier. We're gonna do some glacier, some ice climbing. And then towards the top, we have a giant rock pyramid. And that's the final step of this entire climb, is just getting up this rock pyramid to the summit. And pretty much every type of challenge that you find on these big peaks is getting thrown at us in different ways. Coming down is a whole challenge in itself. So I want to say a special thanks to Insta360 for sponsoring this video. I'm going to be using their go-to to film this entire adventure and really get that point of view perspective. So right now I have it mounted on my unicorn pole that's sticking out from my hat. I'm going to mount it on my chest. I'm going to mount it in different spots. And my goal with this project is really to give you this immersive first-person perspective of what it's like to actually climb these big peaks. So it's about 10 o'clock. We got to get moving. And the first thing we're going to go through is the approach.
You want some huckleberries?
Huckleberries?
Huckleberries. So whenever we're climbing up on the trails, we're usually surrounded by some huckleberry bushes, which is a really nice treat, especially if you're thirsty or just need a little bit of a snack or pick me up. The best part about huckleberries is that they're juicy, sweet, and plentiful.
Do you hear that? So quiet out here. A few birds and a few bugs, and that's it. This approach is definitely a longer hike in, but it's beautiful out here. It's just big trees and perfect weather. The approach to the mountain is always different. This one is a big hike in through the forest. When we climbed on Good about a month ago, it was also a similar style hike, just a lot longer. But when we've climbed in places like Mexico, it'll be, a multi-day going through different cities to try and get to the base of the summit. We'll be taking cars off-roading. Ecuador, we actually drove up to base camp. So it's always different. And it's always a bit of an adventure because you don't really know what to expect. On the mountain, you prep for what to expect for that peak, but with every approach, you have just unique situations that you get in, and it ends up just being such a big part of the adventure. a little water break before we start climbing up.
A third of the way to our campsite right now. So if you have a look up there, we're going to traverse where this party is going up there, make way up behind this knoll, and start on some chimneys, or pretty straight up climb.
Good car, close. Is that the crux?
I think that pitch is the crux.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what the crux of the climb is basically the hardest section. So when we're climbing up these mountains, there's usually one thing, whether it's an ice climbing pitch, a rock climbing pitch, some sort of exposure, there's always a crux. From here, we're gonna keep going up through the chimneys, just moving around rock, hanging out, and a perfect day. With Baker, that's Baker out in the distance behind us, just hanging out high in the clouds. Once we reach the top of the chimneys, we get right on a glacier, and we have to traverse over to Winne's Slide, which is the last challenge before we make it to camp. The last thing we have for today is this ice wall behind me. So we're gonna climb that and then put camp up top there.
How was that?
Good.
Good. Get a little bit of everything up here.
Awesome, yeah.
Camp's right up there.
In less than 24 hours, I went from Southern California to a camp on a mountain in the North Cascades. And whenever I'm talking about these adventures, the most common response that I get is, I wish I could do that. And the thing is, you can do this. You don't need tons of money or time. All you need is the drive and the want. When I was younger, I always read books about mountaineering and watched videos, but I never actually took that first step. And when I finally did in my mid-20s, I realized that this is much more accessible than I ever thought. I'm not a professional climber, and this is not something I do every week, but my buddy Carlos and I have found a way to make it work. So Carlos is all snuggly and warm.
So we have a single walls, black diamond, 2-man, 1.5 person really tent. We've got Jeven's beautiful sleeping arrangement here. We have my beautiful sleeping arrangement here. We've got most of our stuff that we're going to wear tomorrow, like our gloves, our socks, our boots even are in here, our coats. Everything's going to be in this tent tonight because it's going to actually warm up in here. Looks like it's going to be in the upper 20s for tonight. So it's going to be a little bit on the cold side. So when we get up in the morning, we're going to be in our tent. We'll get ready in the tent. We'll unzip, we'll boil some water, have some oatmeal, and get ready to shove off.
Yeah, what he said. Oh man, Now that I'm down, I don't know if I can get back up.
Get up, man. That's the problem.
All right, so we just got up at 4:30 a.m. Had a little bit to eat, kind of watched the weather, and looking in the upper range of the mountain, it's like crazy windy. Like you can just see the winds whipping over. Not the safest climbing that, so we're gonna tuck back into our tents for another couple hours and see if the weather changes. Whoa.
I mean, I'm game to go check things out.
Okay.
For sure. If we're seeing some improvement,
Yeah.
at that point we can be in position and we can decide if, we want to go up, hunker down, and come back.
Cool. Such a different day than yesterday. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Crazy how fast the weather changes up here. I'm gonna go for it and see what it's like up top.
As soon as we make it to Hills Highway, we realize that we might have to turn around. The weather's not changing and it's actually getting worse. But on top of that, when we look up at this slope, the landscape has completely changed. All of these crevasses have opened up in the last week or so. There's only one way up, and it's not something that we want to do with strong winds and the potential of a whiteout.
Well, the weather is kind of closing in on us a bit. It's been in and out all morning, but we have some intensifying winds, dropping clouds. I feel like chances of actually getting to the top today in weather like this are real slim. So we might just cut our losses here and roll back to camp.
All right, we made it back to camp. Clouds definitely rolled in more. It's super thick. Can't even see where Phil is up on the ice right now, and he's down climbing. But we gotta make a call whether to just hightail it out of here or wait till the weather gets better. But it doesn't look like it's gonna get much better at this point. We're in the middle of a cloud.
As soon as we get back to camp, we realize that we need to get off this mountain. The weather just took a turn for the worse, and instead of getting stuck, we're gonna try to beat the weather and get out.
Get out of here.
First, we have to down climb Winne Slide. Next, we need to make it across the glacier and back to the top of the Fisher Chimneys.
Chimneys? It's a little different than yesterday.
With the rain and wind, all of these rocks have now become slipping hazards, and we have to navigate slowly and focus on every step.
So now we are going down the Chimneys, which is what we came up in bright blue sky. It's hot. It's fun coming up this. Now it's just kind of, I don't know. What do you think, Carlos?
Now I think it's just a job.
You know, it is a super bummer that we weren't able to summit, but climbing is more than just summiting and standing on the top. And as cheesy as it sounds, it is more about the journey than the destination, because getting on the top is awesome and it is super exciting when you can get to that summit. But just being out here and like spending a few days of just putting yourself in these situations and challenging yourself in new ways and trying to figure out how to work through some of the technical aspects and just being out in nature, that's what it's all about. And if you're someone who's always wanted to try mountaineering, or you've always wanted to go scuba dive a big coral reef, or you want to go dog sledding, well, there's plenty of ways to just make it happen. There's people out there, there's guides, there's services that let you try these different activities, and if it's something you actually like, you'll find a way to keep doing it. But don't put yourself in the way of doing the things that you want to do. All it takes is making the decision and actually planning the trip, and you can make anything happen. All right, well, that's it. I'm gonna finish this 4-mile hike out, and I'll see you on the next one.
Next, I highly suggest you check out my video where I break down how to create a vlog and tell a story using the Insta360 GO 2. This video goes step by step how I made this short film, and we dig into how you can make more entertaining vlogs. Make sure you check out the link that's down in the description.